Thanks everyone for coming. My name's Luke. I'm the founder of Lightning Energy. It's a good time to be for us to be in this industry because it's really booming with the battery rebate, which I'm sure you guys all want to hear about. So it's a good time for you guys to look at getting a battery because it's never made more financial sense than it does now. So we've really reached a tipping point where everyone who's had their solar for 12 years and they've been thinking about it, and now they're kind of coming around deciding now's the time to do it. So yeah, it's a very busy time. But all right, I just want to introduce, this is Blake here. He's one of my lead designers. It's really good at aircon as well if you're interested in aircon. You can do a really good duct layout for an aircon system as well as batteries. And I've got Kale up the back there. He's another one of my designers, and Jordan at the front desk as well. So if you do have any questions after, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A at the end. But yeah, we'll hang around after. So if you guys have any questions, you really want to get into specifics of your property, you can ask us. But yeah, so we'll get into it. So yeah, my name's Luke. Welcome to Lightning Energy, where the power starts with you. Right here, we're on a mission to electrify Australia, one house at a time, trying to take the power away from the big corporations and the polluters, bring it back to the people, help decentralise energy generation, decentralise the grid, reduce the cost of your energy consumption in your house. And not just that, reduce your energy consumption in your house in general, because when you move over from gas to electric is actually more efficient. So because electric's more efficient, it doesn't even need as much energy. So it's a much better way of doing it, and that's what we're all about, is electrifying everything. So yeah, hot water, aircon, all that stuff as well, we can do the whole lot. So federal battery rebate, this is what all the hype is about at the moment. Everyone's it's in the news all the time. Yeah, the government's got behind it. One of the reasons they won the election, maybe amongst a lot of reasons, but yeah, we're moving ahead now, and they've put $2.3 billion into it, or $2.3 billion aside. So this was Chris Bowen, his plan. I think he was working on this for about 2 years behind the scenes. And he announced it 2 months before, 4 weeks before the election, I think it was, and then 2 months before it was going to start, and he said it would be ready on July 1, and we said, no way, you're going to have your systems in place for us to install batteries at July 1. And he said, don't worry about it, start installing them now in May. And we installed them for 2 months and then switched them on after, and sure enough, the systems have been pretty smooth, actually. So we are providing the discount to you guys when we install the battery, and then we're chasing the government for money, and they have been paying. Not as quick as they should, but they have been paying, so it's going all right.
Is that STC reduced as of 1st of January?
Yes, so it does. So I'll go into that, but yeah, it reduces by about $30 per kilowatt hour. So yeah, the cost of the rebate's going to reduce the cost of batteries by about 30%. So a $16,000 battery last year is now $10,000 or $11,000 now. So it's really brought the price down there. And yeah, they're aiming to get 1 million batteries installed by 2030. And I think they're doing 20,000 a month at the moment. I reckon that I saw them say they've done 60,000 already. So the batteries are flying out the door, which is good. So the reasons you'd want to do this, look, obviously everyone wants to cut their energy bill. They want to reduce their energy costs, reduce the pressure on the grid, boost renewables. Obviously it's good for the environment. We want to look after the environment, look after the next generation. More energy security, blackout protection, and support local jobs really is another thing. There's a lot of young people working in this industry, a lot of young people working for me, and it's young apprentice electricians, even plumbers and refrigeration mechanics, electrifying everything. So keeping them in work is good. So another reason you would want to look into doing this really soon is after July 1, you might have got a letter or an email from your electricity retailer letting you know that the feed-in tariff is reducing to, usually they say 0.000 something because they're not allowed to call it zero, but so they made it a number that multiplies into absolutely nothing. So even if you're sending 30 kilowatt hours back to the grid a day, it still multiplies to nothing. So you're really not getting anything for any excess that you feed back to the grid. So it's really important that you capture that in a battery and use it for yourself. Otherwise, it goes back to the grid and then they sell it to someone else for 30 cents a kilowatt, so it's really a rort. Yeah, STC rebate reducing, as you said. So if you want to know how much the battery rebate is going to be, it depends on the size of the battery that you buy. But it works out to around $344 per kilowatt hour of capacity. So a Tesla Powerwall, for example, I use Tesla as a benchmark because it basically is a benchmark in the industry, but you're going to get around, that's incorrect, 4,625. Yeah, 4,625 off a Tesla Powerwall at 13 kilowatts. So yeah, 344 per kilowatt hour times 13.5 kilowatt hours. If you go for SIG Energy, you could get 16 kilowatt hours or 24 kilowatt hours, get a bigger rebate there. So it's pretty good. Now, it does increase as you get a bigger battery as well. So with modular batteries, so here's, this is Tesla, for example. This is the main unit, and then these are the expansion packs. So each one of these is 13.5 kilowatt hours. So every time you add another expansion pack, you double the rebate. So 4,700 and then bang, bang, bang. So you can get about 9,288 if you get 2 Tesla Powerwalls stacked together with an expansion pack. So that would be 27 kilowatt hours of storage if you did that. So yeah, you could get 2 Tesla Powerwalls and get nearly $10,000 rebate. So
Still got the same inverter.
yeah, 11 kVA inverter here.
Yeah.
Or you can actually get 2 of the master units, and then you can have 2 inverters, so you could have 22. More expensive way of doing it. But generally 11 kVA inverters are right, and you just have the extra storage, so you've got that backup capacity there. But if you're interested in something like that, going for a big system, and you're cognizant of the inverter, you could go for SIG Energy, and they've got a much wider range of inverter capacities. So you could go for 25 kilowatt 3-phase. Do you have 3-phase?
I do.
You do? Oh, okay. You might be leaning more towards something like SIG Energy then.
I am.
It's a 25, yeah, 25 kilowatt hour energy controller, yeah. We'll talk about SIG Energy a bit at the end, but yeah, you can see here's a SIG Energy battery with an energy controller. This is the inverter at the top and the modules at the bottom. And it's all kind of expandable, goes together like Lego. So yeah, the reduction of the rebate is a thing as well. So every year it's going to reduce. So it's going down by about $34 per kilowatt in 2026. So if you wanted to maximise the rebate, you'd want to get in pretty soon, because we're getting pretty close to being booked out to December, to be honest, with our installations. So soon we might be looking at installs getting done in 2026. And then, yeah, obviously 2027 is going to drop again, about 30, 26, 26. By 2030, it's going to reduce quite a lot if you want to wait that long, but that's more towards the end of the scheme. So it's really front heavy. The idea is they want to get as many batteries in as quick as possible, and there's more benefit to put them in sooner.
Could you tell us what STC stands for, please?
Small scale technology certificates. SCTC. They skip that.
Small scale technologies.
So what is one unit? What is STC? What's one STC? Sorry, I didn't technicalise. I have no idea.
$38. Yeah, so STCs are certificates. They're kind of like stocks, where when you install a solar or battery system, you create the STCs, and you might create 100, and then you then sell them to someone who wants to buy them, which is carbon polluters. Big energy retailers have a mandate where they have to buy X amount per year based on their pollution. So then they're forced to buy it. So then essentially we sell it to a third party who sells it to them. But essentially it's like creating stocks and then selling it off, and they go on the market. And well, it's confusing actually. So I'm going off course, but with the solar panel rebate, the STCs were bought by the big polluters, but with the batteries, they're actually being guaranteed to be bought by the government. And then I think they said when they run out of money, then the government's going to hand them over to the private market. So then they'll get bought by energy retailers or polluters. When it gets to that, I reckon they're going to run out of that $2.3 billion in about 2 years. So yeah, who can claim the rebate? Pretty much, I'm guessing anyone in this room, anyone who owns a house or a small business. It's not means tested, so it doesn't matter what your household income is. It's not like SolarVic. SolarVic rebate has a limit at 210 per household. So if two people are on, a highish, a bit over 100 grand, then they're out. Anyone can get it. The only time you can't get it is if you don't have solar panels at all, which is one thing we looked at. We have had some people that want to install a battery to trade energy on the energy market, and they didn't have a roof for solar at all, but we found out he couldn't get the rebate because there was no solar panels. So the rebate's up to 50 kilowatt hours of storage. If over that you can't get it, you can install up to 100 and claim the first 50. I think it works out to $18,000 if you install, I think it's 48 kilowatt hour SIG is what we've been selling. But yeah, around 50. If you wanted to go for the biggest you can, you're getting about 18 grand. So virtual power plant enabled. You don't have to be on a virtual power plant, but you can if you want. It just has to have the capability of doing it. Off-grid systems like SIG can go off-grid, so that's an option as well. The other big one that I forgot to mention is one battery rebate per property. So that's important because if you install a battery, even if you install, say, SIG Energy and you got 16 kilowatt hours of storage, and after a few months you decided you wanted more and you wanted to add another 16 kilowatt hours of storage, go to 32, you can't claim the rebate a second time. So if you were thinking about getting a bigger battery, it's better to go bigger straight away than to try and expand on it later, which has raised some questions from people saying that some people are just milking the rebate with putting huge battery systems on when they don't have enough solar to charge it, and then they're using that battery then to charge off the grid on off-peak times when the energy is cheaper. And I think some people are looking into that going, I don't know whether this was the intention of the scheme, that people were going to take these huge rebates and trade energy on the energy market, but at this point, people are doing it. So we'll talk more about that in a second if you want to go down that road. So another thing to look at when you're buying a battery is the capacity of the battery and the power output of the battery. So capacity, it's kind of like a fuel tank in a car. How much fuel can you fit in the tank? Is it 60 litres? Is it 13 kilowatt hours? Is it up 24 kilowatt hours? Power output is important. That's kind of like how fast can the car drive. So the old Tesla Powerwall, for example, had a 5 kilowatt output, and now the new one has 11 kilowatt hour output for the same capacity, 13.5. Now what that means is the new Tesla Powerwall can deliver power more than twice as fast as the old one. And the benefit of that is that you could basically back up your whole house. You can back up air conditioners and surge loads and electric cooktops and stuff can all be on the backup if you've got a battery that has a higher power output, so a 10 kilowatt inverter or higher. Lifespan, something you want to look into, check how many cycles, what's the warranty. Everything we have here is pretty good. Usually 10 years is a standard, some are 15. Generally, the batteries, from my experience, that have the longer warranties are the ones they're trying to do it to convince you to buy it for some reason because they're not selling very well. Sometimes they're not always around to honour the warranties. So just be cautious of the longer warranties. Be aware of it. Compatibility. You need to make sure that the battery you get is compatible with your system. So if you get a DC coupled battery, for example, that solar edge system, and you're trying to AC couple it to an existing solar system, it's not going to work unless you install an extra inverter on top. So you want to make sure that the battery works with your system, which is generally AC coupled batteries. We've got capacity, power output, we've already been over that. Yeah, so AC coupling is the most common way of installing batteries at the moment. This is probably what most of you are going to want to do if you've already got solar. So you might have a solar system here. This might be your existing inverter, and then you might put a battery in here. And then this battery here doesn't actually connect to the DC solar here. This connects through the switchboard on the AC side. But this is a good example of the Tesla has a built-in inverter, so you can add more solar panels onto the Tesla as well. So this is a DC coupled system with an AC coupled to the existing system. So The simple thing to remember is with AC coupled system, you can basically whack it on anything. So it's kind of compatible with anything. It's like a one size fits all. But the disadvantage of that is there is some losses in the conversion when the energy comes from DC to AC, then it goes back into DC, into the battery, and then it goes back to AC and back to your house. So that would be less efficient than when the solar goes from the DC into the battery and straight into the house. So you might lose 8 or 9% efficiency. So you trade convenience for efficiency with AC coupled batteries a little bit. Yeah, so DC coupled battery would be where the solar is connected directly to the battery. And the same, we've got batteries over here, some DC coupled batteries where SunGrow, DC would go straight in. So that battery has to go with that inverter. Same with that and Solar Edge. So the battery and the inverter have to match because they have to talk to each other. So that's really important. But I mean, these are all things, it's good to know, but yeah, if you talk to us, you talk to one of the designers, we can go through everything with you to make sure we're doing the right system. So the other thing that you guys are going to want to think about, probably want to think about it a little bit before you come to us, is where you can install batteries. Because you need to find a suitable location, and sometimes it can be difficult because there's a lot of places that you can't install batteries. So batteries can't go in a habitable room. So a bedroom or a kitchen can't go there. We can't go in a roof space, in a ceiling. We can't go under stairs, near flammable materials. So if it's on an old weatherboard house and the weatherboard's flammable, we have to put a fireproof sheet on the wall. I'll show you one of those in a sec. Can't go in direct sunlight, so ideally we want to be under eaves, probably not on a north or a west wall where it's getting that afternoon sun, because that heat can cause problems, reduce the life of the battery. So under eaves, on the side of the house, on the south side of the house, in the garage, these are all locations that you'd want to consider for a battery. We need really good clearance around the battery of anything that's flammable. There was one example recently where one kind of singed and smoked a bit, but the idea is we have to keep anything flammable anything flammable has to be 600 mil away from the battery or 900 mil above it. And that counts for doors and stuff as well. So this is an example of what you don't want to do, because in the event that something happened and there was smoke coming out of this, it would blow straight into the house through the door. So we've got to make sure we've got 600 mil away from any opening, any window or any door. So that's really important. So yeah, where batteries can be installed, we're looking at garages, sheds, external walls, under the eaves, dedicated battery enclosure, non-habitable room. It's funny, in Europe they have different rules. They put batteries in bedrooms in Germany. I don't know. It's the only place they could fit it. It was efficient. Yeah, wall clearances. We can put it kind of up against a wall, but we need about 300 mil clearance for ventilation generally, depending on the battery. 600 mil clearance above the battery, and yeah, fireproof barrier if it's going on something that's flammable with a habitable room behind it, like plaster or something. So here we need, ideally you need a nice big wall. It generally works out to about 2 meters across by 2 meters up, almost exactly, just under. That's how much wall space you need for a battery. And if there's a gas meter or a compressor for an aircon or something in that zone, it's going to be a problem. To be honest, the inspector won't start it off. So yeah, it's good if you guys are thinking about it, you can walk around the house, have a look, take some photos of different spots around the house, and you can email them through to us, and we can have a look and we can let you know.
That's in all directions in front as well?
1 meter clearance in front. So here's an example in a garage. You might put it here, so you might have a nib wall here. So you tuck it in behind there, and then this would still need a bollard right here in case it got hit by a car. So I'll show you bollards in a sec. But the only downside about putting batteries in garages is they take up space, and people's garages aren't huge, and they need a bollard in front of them. So we try and be as efficient as we can with the space and find the best spot, but it's a challenge that we deal with every day. here's a picture of an installation. This actually isn't an installation we did, because if we did it, I would have put those bollards a lot closer to the battery to make a bit more space, but obviously they had room there. So we're using white bollards now as well. So this was an old installation, actually about 5 years ago that we did, but this is the cement sheet that's is non-flammable that we had to put on the wall. And then this customer actually painted it after we were done. So that's probably the worst case scenario, where you have to put cement sheet on the wall if the wall's flammable and there's a bedroom or something on the other side. But like I said, you can paint it, and yeah. Sometimes it is what it is. Here's an installation we did with 3 Tesla Powerball 3s. So this was a recent one actually that we did. So you can see we've used white, nice, good looking bollards. You can see the car actually comes in through here, just drives past, just slips past there. So that's a really clean installation. So that's the type of thing that you'd expect to see. Switchboards. I hope you guys at the back can see this. If anyone's got a switchboard that looks like this, it's time to go.
Especially if it's on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, not the archy part, but we used to entertain trying to bang pole enclosures and stuff in, but now we're basically rewiring the whole house to provide backup circuits. Electric car charging is a huge consistent load, and like if you run 7 kilowatts flat out for 6 hours, then that's what's going to happen. So if we have boards like this, we pretty much we do always upgrade them. So that's just something you might need to consider. If you're getting a battery, you might need to allow 1,000 to 1,500 for a switchboard upgrade if you've got an old board. So something like that would be nice and clean. If we saw that, that's a dream, or that's a newer one. So RCDs on every circuit is a thing. So we have to make sure every circuit is protected, particularly if they're on backup circuits connected to the battery. So yeah, inspectors are really strict on switchboards at the moment, making sure they're all 100%, because to be honest, electrification, the amount of loads that we're putting through houses now is something that we've never seen before, and we really need to make sure that the switchboards are up to date to handle it. So the other things, when you're buying a battery, you want to look at the company that you're buying it off. I know it's funny, some people don't like Tesla anymore, but you've got to remember Tesla is huge. For example, Sig Energy is great, but they're a bit newer. They don't have the backing. Just to prove a point, I got a list of the top 10 companies in the world by market cap. This was a few weeks ago. But Tesla is actually a $2 trillion company. So at the end of the day, like if you're gonna invest in a battery with a 10-year warranty and you want something it's gonna be built well and the company's gonna be there to look after you, maybe a $2 trillion company is who you should be looking at. And then, yeah, I mean, definitely Sig Energy can't say that. They make a great product, but they're nowhere near as big. So if you want that security, it might be worth going with a bigger company. But there is also, even Anchor is newer again, and they're much more competitive on price. So these are really things that you guys have got to think about for yourselves and decide. For example, do you want something like Anchor, which is newer to the market and it looks cool, looks like it's built really well and it's actually really cheap compared to Tesla? Or do you want to get something like Tesla because they're the most experienced and the best in the game at what they do? Or something like Sig Energy, who's a little bit in the middle. So a lot of things to consider. Now we're going to talk about Sig Energy for a bit. I'm going to hand it over to Blake. I'll let you talk. So yeah, Sig Energy has got some cool points, so
yeah, great.
I'll give you that.
So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Blake. I'm one of Luke's lead designers. So I do a lot of work, especially at the moment with batteries. Plenty of Tesla, of course. Plenty of Sig Energy. You see a lot of Sungrow still. See a lot of Anchor emerging. Sig's one that we've seen a lot of, particularly because they've got quite a large market share and they've taken such a large market share quite recently. I feel, at least personally, prior to Sig emerging on the market, it was rather polarizing. You'd see a lot of people potentially going down the route of Tesla, or the other end of the spectrum, you'd see things like Sungrow or more budget things like Alpha ESS, for example. Now that Sig's in the market, you find that you get a lot of the nice things like battery modularity, something you can expand more easily with time, which is a nice advantage for plenty of people here, especially if you want to put in a smaller system and grow it as the needs of the house change. So they've come in and taken the market by storm, for lack of a better term. So yeah, we have a little bit of a chat about SIG. So SIG is a 5-in-1 system. So there's a lot of different components that go into it, but it's relatively straightforward. So as Luke was explaining before, you've got your energy controller at the top, which is your inverter, and everything stacks together nicely in little bricks, I like to say. So you can get either 5 or 8 kilowatt hour battery modules, expanding this all the way up to 48 kilowatt hours of potential storage, which is massive. 2 or 3 years ago, it was pretty impressive to see 10, 13, 15 kilowatt batteries being installed. Now we're seeing, an average across the market of 15, 20, 30, 35 kilowatt hour batteries. People are going a lot larger. And I think a lot of that is to do, again, with the fact that when you electrify a house, you're taking a lot of old gas loads and converting them into, say like a ducted air conditioner or a hot water heat pump, where you're massively increasing that reliance on electricity. So again, people go for bigger batteries, bigger solar systems. It's a trend we've seen. So yeah, SIG's great. It's nice and clean. It's a good looking battery. They also have things like a DC charging module, which is an optional add-on that you can throw in. So yeah, definitely in terms of how the market's changing and how, I guess, we as installers and other people in the industry communicate with us, SIG have been very receptive of feedback, and it definitely shows in how they've developed as a company and how they've taken such a big market share so quickly. So again, it is a scalable system, and you see a lot of these getting installed commercially even, most likely because of their battery storage capacity. But again, you have plenty of people that come to me or to anyone else in the company, and we might start with, say, 2 battery modules, 16 kilowatt hours, and then down the track we have people come back and say, all right, I'm decided we're going to go a little bit bigger. Perhaps the solar production's better than you anticipated. And SIG is something that is designed for that out of the gate. It's got that in mind. So again, energy controllers are up the top. That's your inverter effectively. You can get these in single phase or 3-phase, so there's a solution for whatever your supply might be at the house. Plenty of different sizes to suit different budgets, and again, the energy loads in the house. If you've got big things, again, like ducted air conditioners, elevators if you're lucky, pool pumps, you might want to be looking at a higher capacity inverter, so the battery can discharge energy quick enough to keep up with the loads in the house. The way I like to think about it is it's sort of like if you take a burlap sack full of rice and you're trying to drain it through a straw. That's the issue with your inverter. It can become that bottleneck. So we try to look at your loads and everything you're planning with the house ahead of time so that we can make sure you've got ample supply in the first place. And again, like I said, while it is a new product in the market, we've installed quite a few of them and we've seen a great result, plenty of good feedback from our clients about it. I don't see SIG Energy going anywhere, at least in the short term, and probably not in the long term, since they hold such a large market share. And again, at least personally for us, it's really become a staple of how when a manufacturer listens and caters to the demands of their consumers and us installers, and they change their product in lieu, it's been a really good result for them. So SIG Energy, as I mentioned before, they are one of the few suppliers in the market of bidirectional chargers. So that DC charging module is something that you can integrate into this stack here. It does mean that you lose one potential battery slot. So if it is something you're thinking about, 2 things to consider. If you ever want to go beyond 40 kilowatts of battery storage, 40 kilowatt hours, you will be losing 1 slot at the top for that charger. And it is a tethered cable too. So if you're planning on getting that bidirectional charger at some point, it is about 5-6 grand, so it isn't super economical at the moment. There's still plenty of people going for it. You'd probably want to position this somewhere that's relatively close to where you're parking your car, within that sort of 7 to 10 metres. Otherwise, it's not going to be very effective for you. Another nice feature of SIG Energy and some of the top battery brands in the market at the moment is we're seeing a lot more AI integration. So we've got systems that can effectively take a broadcast of your past usage and your habits, and when you enable things like grid charging, which is a feature of SIG Energy or Tesla, it can look at your previous energy usage and determine when you're likely to use energy again, and based on the rates that you've told the battery. So you could tell the battery, when electricity is going to be cheap, when's your peak period. It will make a calculated assessment and charge the energy from the grid when it needs to. So it's another nice advantage if you'd rather sort of set and forget. And then obviously we lead into things like Amber or virtual power plants from there. So, like I said, Amber, for many people here, you might be thinking of fitting a big SIG Energy battery or something along the likes that is compatible with Amber. For anyone who isn't familiar with the term virtual power plant, do we see anyone here? Any hands? Yeah, okay, cool. So a virtual power plant is essentially a program that you enroll in. You don't have to join one, but you're giving control of the battery to a company that will then allow you to either say, for example, charge electricity from the grid at different times in a way that'll be beneficial for prices. So Amber is a great one that lets you trade at wholesale rates. So price of electricity is always going up and down, it's not static, and Amber lets you take advantage of that. So throughout the day, middle of the day, the reason feed-in tariffs are so low is we've got an abundance of solar. 25% of houses in the country have solar, and there's nowhere for it to go in the middle of the day. So the price of that electricity dips really low in the middle of the day. So what a lot of people do with Amber is they'll charge their battery in the middle of the day when electricity is very little or costs nothing. And then in the evening, when you'd normally be paying 30, 40, 45 cents in some unfortunate cases for electricity, you've got that energy that you've stored there earlier in the day to utilise. So for people particularly who are looking at fitting bigger batteries, it does help a little bit with the return on investment argument because while we're not gambling men or anything here, the price of electricity is more than likely going to continue going up. So Amber's a great way to utilise particularly large batteries to take advantage of that. Yep. I'm going to hand it back to Luke now and we'll go through a few more things and we'll probably break that into a Q&A soon.
Yeah. I think we'll let's go into a bit of a Q&A panel now. I think we'll just bring that chair up. We wanted to do a bit more interactive today. So we want to do a little bit of a panel so we can do a Q&A and we can ask some questions because I know everyone's always got really specific questions that they want to know about things about batteries, and I think sometimes people are scared to ask and then someone else asks, so they're glad to hear it. So so to reintroduce again, so obviously we've got Blake on the end, we've got Kale here. All right, questions?
Bi-directional charger. We've got an EV. We drive an EV. We've got a small old solar system. So we're sort of thinking, do we just throw the old system away, get a solar system, get a SIG Energy or something? But I've really been keen on bi-directional charging to get the best out of the car and best value. So is SIG Energy ready to go like that now, or?
Yeah, SIG Energy's ready to go now. What car do you have? BYD Auto. Can that do it?
Cool.
There's a list online. I don't know if BYD Auto off the top of my head if it's on it. If you type in bidirectional charging Australia, it comes up on Google. But yeah, SIG Energy is basically the only product on the market that can do bidirectional charging at the moment because it does it on the DC side. So AC coupled bidirectional chargers are not allowed yet. That's the other ones that they've been trying to push. And this one, they just built it into the inverter. So they said it's nothing to do with the grid. It's all on the DC side, on the inverter side. So it's not really any of the business, and it's controlled by the gateway, so it can't feed back to the grid because the gateway will cut it off. SIG Energy is ready to go with vehicle to grid. It just depends on your car, so you've got to make sure your car is on the list that it can do it, and then you want to look into the warranty as well because you're most likely going to void the warranty of the car. But some people don't care. We know some people are, happy. You can get a second-hand Tesla Model 3 for like 20 grand on car sales. And then if you've got the car space to park it, you could just buy it just for the battery and have a 70 kilowatt hour battery in your driveway and just use that to power your house. Yeah. It's actually a really cheap way to get, say, the 70, 80 kilowatt hour battery for 20 or 30 grand. So that's something that might be worth looking at. Do you have anything?
Yeah, well, actually, I've got a customer doing that today. We're fitting off a SIG Energy system. He only ended up putting in, I think, about 16 kilowatt hours overall, but he's got a Model 3 that he just can't get rid of, really, at the end of the day. He's been struggling for 6 months to try and sell it, so he ended up coming in here, having a chat to us, and obviously SIG Energy really is the only bi-directional charger out there in the market that can actually do that. But it's also a growing space as well. Like, it's really in its infancy stages, and there's a few other little things to do with the grid that sort of really need to sort of tie in, and there'll be a lot of car manufacturers. There's so many that are coming over to Australia at the moment that will be approved for bi-directional. So though there is some products available now, which is good to jump on board early, but probably be rest assured that there will be plenty of options coming later on as well.
Cool.
Just one more.
Yeah,
please.
follow-up question?
Yeah.
Yes, that's allowed.
So could you buy that package without the bi-directional charger now, and then in 6 months or 12 months?
That you definitely can do, as there's no rebates or anything on the charging. So, yeah, like I said, they're not cheap. They're, depending on whether, I think there's different current ratings, 11 and 22 kilowatt, 12 and 25. Yeah. These guys quote more than I do.
It's not a big install cost either, really. SIG Energy overall isn't a huge install cost when you are looking at expanding, because, look, I'm an ex-installer myself, and I get jealous with these types of systems because it is so easy for expansion. It's quite literally clip a few buttons, pull the unit off, the energy controller off, and then just start dropping the batteries in over the top, which obviously there's not huge costs involved with that either.
Yeah, you reminded me, one of the things I forgot to mention at the start was the way the rebate's structured is a lot of the cost is in installing the gateway up here, and then these batteries, you just kind of bang it in, and then you get more rebate as you put more in. So the cost of batteries actually gets cheaper per kilowatt hour as you go bigger. So often it doesn't make sense to get like a small 10 kilowatt hour battery. It makes sense to get 20 to 30 and get a much bigger rebate, because the amount of work to clip extra of these modules in, just to clip them in, is nothing, and it's like $4,000 rebate every time you do. It's like cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah.
So,
money at that point.
Yeah. And then if you can get it on a plan like Amber, like what a lot of people are doing, was just going for a huge battery stack, 32 kilowatt hours. They get huge rebate from the government. They chuck it on Amber energy plan, and then they start trading energy on the energy market. When the energy spikes, they're discharging. In Melbourne, the grid price during the day is usually around like 1 cent a kilowatt hour in the middle of the day. So you can charge up during the day, and there's people making thousands of dollars every year off their battery on Amber. They're really taking advantage. It's a good thing now. More questions? Yes.
I basically missed everything from listening carefully. Like, I've got no idea what you talk about.
Okay.
That's fair, because we're old and don't understand.
That's why we do the Q&A.
I don't really care how much I get back. I don't care. I want to know how much it's going to cost, what size I need. We've got more solar panels on our roof than you've had roast dinners, so there's plenty of solar panels. But do you come around to the house and say, right, you need this, this and that? Because if we have, we're done. I'm happy. Like, because I've got no idea about all that. Electric cars, that will never happen. Yep. So I'm with it now, okay? But I just need to know if a battery is going to be worth it for 10 years, which is hopefully still got 10 years left. Is it going to be worth it, or do we just go and use the solar and walk?
Yeah. Where do you live?
Blackrock.
Blake will go around Blackrock.
Yep.
Talk to Blake after. Give him your details. He lives down that area. He can come.
Deal.
He can go. There you go. He'll come down and sort it out. Yeah. Because
all that is just whoa.
Well, look, and this is the thing is we want to educate you guys so you know, so you make the right decision, and we know how it is. You're going to talk to us, but you're going to go off and probably talk to another 2 or 3 companies as well, just to see what they say.
No,
not really. Okay. Like Blake.
Yeah. I haven't got time and I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Quote This one, we'll probably go to Northern Territory to ask a question.
Yeah.
I don't do any of that.
Yeah, well, it's good. Yeah, there's two ways you can do it. You know, you could do all of the research yourself. It depends how much you trust us. So you can always just come to us and say, "What do I need? Show us."
I know where you live.
We can look at it. Yeah, we can look at your roof on. We've got satellite images, so we can see people's roofs. We can see the systems. Get photos of the garage. We can get a lot of information remotely without going out. But then often we do often go out. Half the time we do. Sometimes we don't, depending if we need to. But yeah, there's benefits. Yes.
So looking 5 years into the future, which is very difficult to do in this ecosystem, do you see
World War III.
vehicle to home and vehicle to grid making batteries redundant?
Yeah, that's. You'd have to keep your car parked there.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, right.
Work from home, mate.
So as Cal mentioned before, vehicle to grid is still something that's, I'd say, in its infancy at this stage. Like a lot of manufacturers are coming out and trying to develop more support for it. BYD is an example. A lot of Volkswagens, particularly the electric lineup, of course, looking at that too. It's a good question, but I think as we see things develop, some of the limitations are how fast a car can discharge into a property, for example. Because the thing that home batteries do really well, particularly SIG Energy, if you put a big 30 kilowatt energy controller on, for example, so if you've got really high loads in the house, you can discharge fast enough to keep up with it. Whereas some of the limitations with an EV is that you mightn't be able to discharge quickly enough, whether it's a DC connection or whatever it might be, to keep up.
People are very unaware of how big an electric car battery is.
It is very large,
Like
and
how many Powerwalls do you need to have the equivalent of a Model 3 battery?
5 or 6.
5, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, and that's something that people run into as well, is that the reality is, yes, you can get a large battery, but your EV's got an even bigger battery. So maybe in the future it'll become something that's a bit more viable. For now, it's still emerging. With how quickly everything's changing, there's a good chance.
You can only buy the tech that's available today. You can't buy the tech that's available in 5 years' time. But if it's going to be replaced really quickly, it's a bit of for me, it's a bit of a disincentive.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, if you never buy the tech to begin with, then you never get to capitalise on it. So there has to be a certain point where you take the plunge, and for everyone that's obviously different. But yeah, for me, I think it's very much still emerging. We'll see how it goes over the next few years, but SIG Energy is definitely one of the pioneers for now, I'd say. We'll give some time for manufacturers to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, your car's not always going to be there. I think it's good. I think the future is going to be a combination of both. I think having a battery installed at your house and then being able to plug your car in as well and capitalise on that. Yeah, it's the whole ecosystem, and something like Amber can manage all of that together to get the most ROI out of everything and just move your energy around to wherever you need it, from the car to the house or vice versa.
I think probably the size of the battery capacity might lessen, right? Because if you've got such a big car at home, as far as the kilowatt hours, I mean, we've just been talking about how many people are buying 48 kilowatt hour stacks, which is pretty much half a car at the moment. But when you get that ability to buy a directional charge from your car, people might not be putting in such large battery systems, because it is good to be able to have a battery system that is safe and secure at home. You know, it's pretty hard to steal a home battery. You can steal cars. You can crash a car as well, right? So having it...
It's hard to steal a Tesla.
It is pretty hard to steal a Tesla. But yeah, it's one of those things that you've always got a bit more of a secure investment at home, and then the car is really like a backup to your home battery.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The cost these...
We're the wood home and distance, so everything's on the south side at the moment. I've got an inverter, panels on the north side, inverters on the south side, away from the weather, etc. Nice and dry. But I'm not really keen on putting a battery on that south side because there's not a lot of room there, because it's at the front of the house at the most. I want to put it on a shed that's about 25 metres away from me.
That's...
Am I going to lose anything here?
How much money do you have? No, sorry. But, honestly, that's the answer. Is like we can install it 25 metres away. We just need to run. Is it single or three phase?
Single.
Single phase. Okay, so we'll need to run 16 mil mains out there, 16 mil cables, potentially maybe even bigger for the volt rise. Or
Yeah, it depends. Volt drop, but it depends on the distance and how big the system's going to be as well. So how much power is going to be funneled up that cable? It's really good. That's going to determine the size of the cable, which is how much money you're going to end up spending on it. And then obviously we've got to get those cabling over half a metre deep underground as well.
Yeah.
or did you say it was underground?
Yeah.
Yeah,
as well.
it's totally.
But it's like, I'm not really keen on sticking this on the side of the wooden house.
Yeah, it's totally doable. It's just really expensive cable to get out there and a bit of labour, so you might need a budget, a couple thousand extra for that, but it's definitely doable. As a general rule, I say to all of the team that the batteries and the gateways in particular need to go as close to the switchboard as possible, because with the amount of current that comes out of these things, the size cables we need to run is huge, and the costs, people are just like, why is this like $3,000 extra? It's like, well, you want it at 30 metres away. Yeah. Sorry? Is your...
I put a new switchboard out the back in that shed and have everything out there. Is that possible?
Then it won't supply the backup loads in the house.
So all the
That's going to get...
to be at the main switchboard in the house, which is still 25 metres away. That's the issue.
Yeah, so it has to supply back to the main board, so then when the grid goes down, the battery will supply the house. Otherwise, when the grid goes down, the battery will only supply the shed because it's downstream. Yeah.
We're not saying it's impossible. We're just saying it's more steps to take.
It's just a bit more complicated, and at the end, it just ends up with another line item on the bottom of the invoice where you go, what is that? All right. Yeah, guy at the back.
Yeah, for the typical house, what's the maximum amount of power you can export to the grid, like in an hour? 5 kilowatts?
You'd be limited to...
Well, it's actually limited based on how many phases of power you got at home. For single phase, 5 kilowatt is 15 kilowatt. Yeah, if you've got dual phase, then you can do 10, obviously. Yeah. So that's a limitation set by the distributors. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a question with, I run a modem at home. The existing solar system that I've got is an SMA system, which I just log into via my phone. If I was to look at something like SIG Energy and that sort of thing, obviously Anvil wouldn't be an option for me in that space, or...
It still would be. So are you thinking from a monitoring perspective?
Yeah. So I've got a robot system at another property, which I'm running through a dongle, and that sort of that works fine. But I'm just looking at this as an option for a place where I don't have any internet connectivity other than so that's...
Yeah. So where you're gonna get stuck there is actually again to do with the distributors. So it's actually half a kilowatt, isn't it? With no internet? Yeah. So depending on whereabouts you're located.
This is on the Warrington Peninsula.
Okay, so United Energy. Yeah. So if you don't have any internet connected to your SIG Energy system at home or any battery system at home, and therefore United Energy cannot basically monitor your system's solar export, which sounds a bit silly when we're talking about batteries, but it's just the way that they've set it up, then you will actually be limited to, or United Energy would be a 500 watt export.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More or less, they don't want you to export.
They wouldn't want you to export. So you can still do amber, but you're very limited in the amount of power that you can shoot back out to the grid. So instead of being like 5 kilowatt for single phase, you're 500 watts.
So if I was to do it on the existing system that I've got, though, that doesn't have that observation or that mechanism in place, could I still actually incorporate a SIG Energy system in under that existing solar system with the SMA inverter? Or
That's a good question.
Yeah, this is where it gets complicated. So the distributors in Victoria brought in a thing last year in November called October. You love correcting me.
Sorry.
It's called CSIP backstop testing. So what that is essentially is Big Brother having the ability to shut down your solar system whenever they want, but they don't really do that. But the idea is that if there's too much power feeding back to the grid for whatever reason, they do have the ability that they can go in and push a button and they can restrict people's solar down temporarily. So It doesn't really happen. It's something that's pretty rare. It might only happen for a few minutes, but they want the ability for that to happen. So for them to have that back-end access to your system has to be connected to the internet. So when we do the grid connection, we then have to log into the distributor's portal, whether it be United, and make sure that they can access your system remotely. Now, that's for new systems installed after October.
1st of October.
October.
Yeah.
New systems installed after October last year. So any new system that's going in now has to be connected to the internet, basically. If your system was already installed before, then it does not. If we're adding another system to your property, the new system must be connected, but the old system doesn't have to be. So it's a bit weird.
So in your case, if you went and added a battery and then wanted to use that battery to then send the power back out to the grid, well, it's got to be registered with United Energy. So then that's where you're going to get stuck with that limited export.
But I mean, are you trying to export though? Because this is the thing, if you're adding a battery, you're not trying to export anyway.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So
an EV, and I'm also using, like, I moved power shop, I'm purchasing power.
Right, yeah.
At a cheap rate, but there's no battery storage facility in this property. So I'm just trying to see what I can mix and match a little bit, I suppose.
yeah, that would be fine.
Can you get internet there?
I can, I'm just not into putting a modem into the joint if I don't have to. You know what I mean? I don't have one there. I could pay $600 a year just for that purpose.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair.
Yeah. Might have to consider internet. It's a bit tricky, that one. All right, more questions? Yes.
But I've got a few questions. So for you're talking about the size of inverters affecting how fast you can charge and discharge.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say for a 20 kilowatt hour battery, what size inverter would you recommend?
Depends a little bit on the size of the solar system. Usually we go for a little bit smaller than the solar system. So 13 kilowatts of solar might have a 10 kilowatt inverter, for example.
Right.
So 20 kilowatts. Yeah, some people might only have a 6.6 solar system. So they might only opt for a 5 kilowatt inverter and have more storage, because even if they had a bigger inverter, they don't have enough solar to charge at that speed anyway.
Okay.
So I'd probably say around 10, unless there was a reason why you wanted a bigger inverter to power a specific load.
Around 10. Okay.
Yeah, 10.
Air conditioners, underfloor heaters, anything like that? Or?
No, we have one split system that we use to air condition and to heat in the winter. Just that section of the house. The rest is underfloor gas heating for the time being. We have small swimming pools or swimming pumps.
Yeah, okay.
Electric oven, just a standard household things. that
Nothing
you would
too
have.
extreme.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not extreme loads.
No, it's not extreme. I don't think it's extreme loads.
No,
I don't
no.
think it's extreme.
And then I suppose part of our job is that we also have those conversations about what maybe some other future potential loads might be. So though those loads might not be much right now, but if you did change out the gas heating,
Yeah.
and then you did go to an underfloor reverse cycle system, well, do we consider a larger inverter for that to cover yourself later on? So then that way, if you're not using all the power inside your house, and now you've got all these new larger loads, that solar or that inverter system isn't going to be too small to cover off those loads. So normally we encourage people, especially with SIG energy systems, or if you've got 3-phase and you want something that's a little bit larger, try and go for the larger energy controllers if you can, or in any type of system, if you can make the inverters a little bit larger, makes a lot of sense. It's really just future proofing, and there's not normally a huge cost between a 10 and a 15 kilowatt inverter.
Or a 5, right?
Or a 5 and a 10, or a 5 and an 8, or a 5 and a 6. Yeah, there's not a huge difference.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. My next question was, you were talking about a 10-year warranty. Is that standard? A 10-year warranty on battery and the inverter?
Yeah, it's pretty standard across the board. It is pretty standard across the board. You'll see that really almost everything in here, inverter-wise or battery-wise, will have a 10-year warranty.
Okay.
And then, like with solar panels, they're normally 25 years.
Yeah.
It's probably more important to look into things like this, like what Luke was talking about before, which is the cycles inside the batteries. So really the lifespan is sort of some of the...
Lifespan of the battery.
Yeah, it's probably more of the important things that I would see. Well,
A good 20 years?
well, it depends on your house. So that's when we're doing the consultations, we run you through that. So once we understand, okay, how much power are you using? How much solar have you got? You know, how big of a battery you're going to put in? It should last X amount of years. Right. As a ballpark, you know, you can never say exactly how long, but a bit of a ballpark to give you a good idea.
Okay.
I will say, I'll give you the scoop. I shouldn't, but we give you the raw information here. The LED strip on this SIG Energy battery, the LED strip only comes with a 2-year warranty, very controversial.
True, that's right, yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of people in the industry arguing about whether that should be a 2-year warranty for the LEDs, and do you even need the LEDs? The battery still works, yeah, but it should work for 10 years, but, you know, these are, yeah, but I shouldn't say that. No, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with this.
I understand it's 2 years because it could be installed outdoors and gets the UV. That's why it's 2 years.
Yeah.
If it's indoors, perhaps it should be 10.
So you can only really have a disco in your garage for about 2 years, and then if it's done, it's done.
Yeah, that new battery glow kind of disappears.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I had
and
one more
you had one more? That's okay.
Yeah, we're talking about backup in Melbourne. We have never had the electricity go down in 35 years. Never. So is backup really necessary in Melbourne, or?
What suburb do you live in?
Windsor.
Windsor. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear the west. I hear like Yarraville is really bad. I hear they've got a really old grid there that hasn't been upgraded. They have blackouts for 4 or 5 hours at a time. For example, I had one customer. He was running an architectural firm from Yarraville, and we put 3 Tesla Powerwalls into his place a while ago because he said the power goes out for 5 hours at a time. I've got a firm of 12 people. If the power goes out, I'm losing thousands of dollars every hour. So give me 3 Tesla Powerwalls and. So
hasn't gone off since.
Yeah, and he's been right since. Cost a bit, but these are considerations.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Windsor, yeah, obviously you're right. Look, I mean,
City power.
yeah. Other areas, I mean, sometimes I'm at Mount Waverley. There's been a couple, it's actually maintenance on the street. Oh, and there was one blackout when there was a storm 2 years ago, actually. That was funny when I was the only person on the street with power. But yeah, obviously up in the hills, Lilydale.
Up in the hills and
Look, and this is why we give you guys all of the information, and I'll tell you the good and the bad about everything, because I think, like, really it's up to you to decide. Like, you know, maybe if you don't care about the ROI, you care about the blackout protection. It's like, well, is that worth $15,000 to you? You know, that's a decision that, you know, you've got to decide. Yeah. Like, we don't want to force that. You know, I don't want to try and scare you about saying, oh, there's going to be blackouts. No, nobody knows. That's up to you. So, yeah, you know, I think you're probably all right at Windsor, but yeah. It's less critical.
How much does blackout protection? I don't know what the proper term is. What is that an expensive add-on, or is it?
Not massively expensive. So simple answer: most batteries in the market you can install them with or without blackout protection. Like Solar Edge, for example, you can install it with or without a backup interface. It's a difference of about $900 roughly. SIG Energy depends on whether you're single phase or 3-phase, because the gateway up the top there is essentially what monitors that whole function. It could be the difference of about $1,200 versus $2,000, single phase versus 3-phase. So there's plenty of people that put them in without backup if they're perfectly happy with the grid and they don't mind the odd outage.
Retrofit backup?
You could, as long as the stock is still available. Yeah, it depends on the product. Yeah, well, if you're in Windsor, you're pretty much in one of the most reliable grid areas in the country. So if you're not too fussed about it, you don't have to have it. Simple as that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right, more questions? Forgot. Well, I'll get you in the middle because I don't think you've got one yet.
Sure. How does AMBER work? Like we have Sumo at the moment, no panels, no battery. Is it an alternative retailer to Sumo, or is it on top of Sumo?
It's an alternative retailer, so technically it's a whole nother energy retailer, but just their business model, the way that they deliver is totally different to everyone else. So you get a battery installed, you get connected to the grid, then you swap over to Amber, they become your energy retailer, and then they charge, I think it's $18 a month at the moment. 31, they put it up, yeah. So yeah, and then you have access to the wholesale prices, which change every 15 minutes, which usually the Amber Smart Shift, the AI, will work it so it will go in your advantage most of the time. Doesn't always. Sometimes people have a bad day, but it's like day trading. It's like stocks, you know. As long as you win more than you lose, which everyone on Amber does win more than they lose. The only way that you can really lose on Amber is if you don't have a very big battery at all, or if you use all of your battery capacity and then the price spikes up to 45, 50 cents and you're forced to buy power, then you can be in a position where you're vulnerable to that. So Amber always say they recommend for you to have as big battery as possible to make sure you've got that excess there. And then you've got, say, 8 kilowatts that you use and then another 8 kilowatts that you trade. That's your excess. And then you're going to have a good time if you've got a system like that. But yeah, it's a whole nother retailer. Yeah.
Does Amber make a recommendation on battery size? I mean,
Amber has an ROI calculator on their website. So if you go on Google, you type in Amber ROI calculator, and then you can put in your address and your energy bill and the system that you're considering buying. So you could put in, 16 kilowatt hours SIG energy, 13 kilowatt hours of panels, and the ROI calculator will tell you roughly what they think you're going to get based on your area. So
would you have a 5 or a 10 kilowatt hour inverter?
Well, you're limited. You can only feed 5 kilowatts back to the grid at any one point in time, but that doesn't mean you couldn't be feeding more power into your house as well. So if you had a 10 kilowatt inverter and you're using power in your house, you could be sending 5 into your house and 5 back to the grid. Generally, I'd say, yeah, it's a tough, with Amber, it's kind of like sky's the limit because you're not limited by solar. So you can just trade energy whenever you want. So essentially bigger is always better. Bigger inverter is better, bigger battery is better, faster car is better. It's kind of like that. So the bigger you can go, the better time you're going to have with Amber. More questions? Yeah? Okay.
One question about off-grid. I don't really have more than that, but if you're considering in suburbia to do that, obviously the bigger system, the better. Can you do it, and is it worth it?
Look at each other. Yeah, all right.
So this is actually something we get quite often, and it is technically possible. You'd have to look pretty closely at, I guess, how much battery storage is going to work for your usage, how much overhead you'd like, and where you're comfortable. Is it a cheap thing to do? Generally, no. But you see a lot of people that live rural Tasmania, rural Victoria, that don't have grid connection, that might spend $150,000, $200,000 on batteries, solar, huge ground mount systems. General answer is it's normally not super practical. The best system that we find in terms of redundancy for most people normally comes from a system that's sized well enough that you have enough excess power for the house, a bit of overhead, enough to reliably charge your battery to the point where you're probably 90, 95, even 99% independent from the grid the majority of the year. It's a very nice thing to have the grid there if you ever need it. I understand people wanting to kick, say, their daily provider costs and things like that, but it becomes a question of, is it worth a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 investment to go as big as you need to go? I'm not saying that'll be what it costs for everyone, but just an example, to kick a $300 charge every year. So it really depends. There's a lot of batteries capable of it. Everyone's use case is a bit different though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth the headache.
It's a different kettle of fish off-grid. I used to work for a company in a rural area, and we used to install quite a bit of off-grid on French Island, and it is a completely different style of living. Especially with the size of the systems that you install, and then if you don't have the grid, you've got to have a backup generator as well. So there is a fair sort of ongoing maintenance costs that come alongside with it. Which is, it's all possible with some of these SIG energy systems, but it's a pretty tough ask to try and get away from the distribution network. They want your money, so it's pretty hard to get away from them.
Yeah, I say it's better to stay connected just in case if you have a middle of winter, there's not much sun and the batteries are flat and you don't really want to go without power. But yeah, question, guy at the back.
Yeah, is there a limit to how much you can import from the grid in terms of power?
I was going to say no. How much power they can sell you, they'll sell you as much power as they can get through your mains.
So the 5 kilowatt export limit, there's no equivalent?
There's no import limit, no. So your import limit would be whatever your main switch is. So if you've got a 63 amp main switch, then that would be the limit that you could pull at one point in time.
It's about 14 and a bit. 14, 15.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, that's a lot of power. What are you importing? What are you? What do you? Yeah, what's going on in this house?
Do we all need to come around?
Pay you to import from the grid when the wholesale price is negative.
Yes, they will. So, yeah, definitely. All right, more questions. We've got a lot. Gail, yep.
Hi, are there any competitors to Amber? I know that they charge a monthly subscription. I think it's $25. I'm just wondering if they're the only one offering people like us access to the wholesale market to trade. What's to stop them jacking up their monthly subscription if they've got no competitors?
That's a good point. I don't think they do have any competitors. Glow do.
Glow.
They do a similar.
Yeah, there's similar to Amber.
Nothing the same
Okay.
scale.
Amber's pretty cheap. Amber's one of those businesses. I've met their CEO, actually, our founder, recently, and he was a really nice guy. And I'm kind of like, how do you guys make money again? Like, I didn't ask him that directly, but that's what I was thinking. I should have. He didn't seem like he was that wealthy, so you know.
Local bolts.
Yeah.
With Amber on the similar model.
Yeah.
Local bolts.
Okay. Yeah. Have a look. But yeah, Amber are pretty unique with their offering, and yeah, they're pretty cool, kind of young startup company. They want to grow, and they're happy just obviously making their little bit. Obviously, they have put their fees up a little bit over the last few years. Like, it does seem to be creeping up a bit, but everyone on Amber is still basically on the best deal that you can get, I think. So.
Next question. Regarding the federal government rebate, I understand that from 1 January it's going to come down a few percent, and I think is it a calendar year before then it increments down in terms of this? Is that right?
Yes, off the day that the battery is installed, which is a bit of a problem if you sign a contract in November but it doesn't get installed till January, and then the rebate drops, and then it's a bit messy. Can be a bit of a discussion as to what happens with that. Usually, say if we do it, we usually cop the difference, so we lose out if people buy and then it doesn't get installed till January. But then after January, then there's going to be the new price, which is slightly lower.
And is there a forecast for when it's going to run out, given the popularity?
That's another interesting one. I don't know. I did some sums because people are getting really big battery stacks, and I don't think they predicted it. So when they devised the scheme, I think they looked at historical data of the average size of the battery that the average Australian would install, and then once they put the rebate on top, everyone goes, oh wow, I can get twice as big battery now, and they didn't anticipate that. So it's going a lot faster than what they thought. So it is going to be a question. Honestly, in my opinion, I reckon the 2.3 billion is going to be gone in 2 years. However, then the question is if they're going to, I have heard that they're going to hand it over to private companies to fund the scheme after that. But I don't think that's been confirmed. So
there's also some talks and caps as well.
There has also been talks of in 2026 potentially capping the battery size based off the solar system size. So there's a limit. If you've got 6 kilowatts of solar, you can't have 48 kilowatt hours of battery and get the rebate. There are talks about that behind the scenes, but this stuff is actually speculative political stuff, so we don't really know. Yeah. More questions?
Just general question.
This guy wants
a normal house, I know it's a different question because how long's been string, but a normal house, how much energy would it use at night? Kilowatts?
What kind of heating do you have?
Let's say it's a split system.
10 to 20 kilowatts of power to heat the house overnight, depending on.
We don't turn our hair on at night, so we're out of that.
Yeah, that's your biggest consumption.
Because you've got a few fridges and a couple of fridges and
your lights
and your stove, like as in the lights on your stove and the digital clocks, and not that they use a lot. But
Yeah. Look, in a place like Melbourne, there is no true average per se. But if we take something like a normal run-of-the-mill 3-4 bedroom Metricon home, 3 or 4 people living there, nothing crazy going on. On average, you might use 18 to 25 kilowatt hours of energy over a day, over a 24-hour period. Assuming most people might be home during the day, or potentially, it depends whether you work, at home or away, whatever it might be. It might be 30% of that figure, 40% of that figure is used overnight. Depends on if you're night owls or not, I guess. That's a rough figure, yeah.
You might do maybe one more question, and then I think we'll wrap it up and you guys can have a chat. Guy at the back, yeah?
I'm just interested, are there any advantages in shifting to 3-phase? I'm on an old 43 amp connection. It needs to be updated because we don't have induction. We want to do it. An elbow is going to outstrip that eventually. Are there advantages or disadvantages in picking a single phase or a 3-phase system if we get our grid connection updated?
Installation's a lot easier with single phase. 3-phase, it's actually fine. I mean, all these questions is just it's fine. It just costs money. Basically, we can upgrade to 3-phase. 3-phase is better. We can install 3-phase. We've got really good options with 3-phase equipment now. 12 months ago, we didn't have much in the way of 3-phase batteries, but now we do. So now we can just upgrade the mains to 3-phase, new board 3-phase, SIG Energy, everything 3-phase, bang, done. It's going to cost X, and hopefully you don't fall off your chair.
Sorry, can you just explain what the difference is?
Between single and 3-phase? So it's basically the electricity lines that go into the house. So a standard house would have one electricity line, and then a bigger house might have 3 lines twisted together. So three rows going in of power. So you could essentially have triple the power. I think all new houses have to be 3-phase now anyway.
Depending on
It's definitely more common, particularly with big air conditioners. Most of the houses that we see that are 3-phase in newly developed areas normally have it either because A, it's there and it was a $2,000 box to tick when they were building the house, might as well have it, or particularly if you've got a large ducted air conditioner that draws 6, 7, 8 kilowatts when you turn it on, or you've got a house that's big enough to justify something like that, then they'd put 3-phase into that.
All right, look, we might wrap it up at that. We're going to hang around here for another half hour or so. So like I said, there's Jordan back there. George is around in the back corner as well. He's someone you can talk to, and obviously Kale, Blake, and myself. So we're just going to hang around here and have a chat. So thanks for coming. Cool.
Thank you.